Michaela, I like to call this expect the unexpected. If I were to name this composition, I think I would call it expect the unexpected. And I think it's really a successful piece in a lot of ways. I want to address your writing, and I think one of the smartest things you did here, one of the things I'm really impressed with, one of the decisions that you made as a student is to try to find images that don't go together. That's good practice. And it rings to really developing a narrative based on things that maybe don't necessarily go together. So to expect the unexpected based on the reaction of the girl, the pony or the horse, and then the background where we would not expect to see these other elements, I think is really super interesting. The fact that the girl is jumping and in midair while turning her head with air, the hair is flowing, and there's a lot of movement in here, but it's captured in a way that it's presented as a still. So it presents a little ambiguity as there is definitely a separation between the bottom of the feet and the surface that you have successfully not included with the horse. So you've created this kind of dimensionality here and also some depth and some really, really super interesting perspectives. So I think it's very, very interesting piece. Addressing your writing, I think your writing is excellent because you've really addressed a lot of things that I think help me understand how you're learning the process. And I think you are doing very well in that regard. So one of the things that we need to understand is that even though you're saying that you tried to pick images that don't go together, there's going to be a time and a place where you're just going to be confronted with composition, with composite or montage work in Photoshop where the images are just not going to work. A couple of things that to keep in mind in that regard are light source. If you have a light source that is directly above in one image, and the shadow is being cast directly below, and also the interior shadows based on the depiction of the image, and then you have another image where the light source is over to the side, there's not much you can do about those conflicting light sources. Conversely, it's not a good idea to try to mix a low resolution image with a high resolution image. Those won't work together. And then, of course, there are some images that just conceptually, we can fit anything together, right? And we can build a narrative therein. But some images don't have the physical qualities to be able to be mixed together. And again, I think resolution and light source are two of the primary indications there. Differences in the lighting, I think the end result was pretty good. Try to mimic the original reflection. I think the reflections are great. Nice job there. I had some trouble arranging and stretching the horse's feet to match up with the original horse. So I make a learning technique to do that better. The horse, yeah, you're talking about the reflection. That's always that's a tough one, man, because you basically the reflection, if a true reflection, this hoof right here would be meeting this hoof, where this one would be meeting this. But if we invert this and reduce the opacity, it's just not going to work out like that. So that's always a tough task. Typically what I do is since we won't see the top of the horse, what I would do is I would take this and mask it out or select it out, create a different layer, and then create the reflection from that. Conversely, you can do the same thing here. That's separating the two legs in a reflection layer so that you can move this one up there and have it meet accordingly. Does that make sense? Okay. So I think an image wasn't. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the composition. I think the composition is good. I think it's got a it's good storytelling. It's good narrative quality. Expect the unexpected. I love it. I think it's great. If we take a close look now, I'm going to zoom in here, and let's go ahead and take a look at the selections. Good job on the hair. Great selection techniques there. We don't see any indications of the original background. Have a little motion right here, but that's part of the original image. Nothing we can do. So we can see, again, zooming in, we've got nice selections all around. There's no indications of the original background anywhere. So that's an excellent technique. Let's come over to the horse. The horse, I think, is a little bit different. And here we've got some, I'm wondering, let me see something real quick. Okay, boy, the horse, I do want to talk about the horse a little bit. Now, some of the selection techniques I think are unusual. Like, I'm not sure what's happening here. Over here, it looks like it's so feathered that we're almost missing selections of the horse. They're almost feathered into the background. So I'm wondering if an additional selection, try selecting the horse again and seeing if you can come up with, or refine, I shouldn't say selecting again, I should say refining the selections. Other than that, I think you're looking good. A lot of this has to do with the JPEG rendering and that it is a lossy formula. It's compressing to the point where it's almost difficult to see. In a perfect world, I would have requested a submission of it, the PSD file for this exercise. Oh, you will be submitting this PSD file for the final, so I will be able to take a look at that. But let's go ahead and take a look at the overall composition. And I think one thing that's really super easy to notice is the tonal distribution differences between the images. And specifically, I think the horse image could use an adjustment layer to increase the contrast. We've got wonderful contrast in a background building and also in the jumping girl. But the horse is, the contrast is a little, the tonal distribution is a little bit lacking here. So in other words, we've got a greater degree of difference between the lightest lights and the darkest darks in the background image and in the image of the girl than we do here. So again, this points to an adjustment layer to bump up the contrast in this. I would recommend a levels adjustment layer or a curves adjustment layer. Levels adjustment layers are much easier to work with, much more intuitive. However, curves adjustment layers provide a little bit more control. So kind of have a give and take there. I would recommend starting with a levels adjustment layer and then experimenting with curves to see if you can see it, really how to get a grip on understanding how curves work. It's a little bit daunting at first. Curves are a little difficult at first, but levels adjustment layer is the way to go here. Check your histograms to see where your tonal distribution lies, and then increase the contrast with the horse accordingly. All right, fantastic work, Mikayla. Really nice job. And I'm just noticing something right now. That's you, isn't it? Yeah, that's you. I can tell from the image right here. I didn't pick that up at first. Sorry about that. But anyways, outstanding work. Really great job. If you have any questions or if I can provide any clarifications, please let me know. I'll be glad to do that. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your work.